Hi, it's Steve from EasyTRC. Wanted to talk through the admin area, have a little training session on all about contracts, how to create them, how to edit them, and do what we need to do. So let's get started. So once you get into your website, you log into the system. Of course, as always, go to the upper right-hand corner, click on that admin link, and then you're going to see the dashboard by default, which is discussed in a separate video. But the next tab down there is the contracts. This is where you could see all of the contracts that are in the system, regardless of status. You can sort by any one of the columns, of course, and you've got links back to the products, directly to the contracts, over to the salesperson, whatever is necessary there. You can certainly search for contracts by number or dates that they're created. Look for specific statuses. For instance, if you're looking for all of them that are pending payment, you can look for them that way. Obviously, I picked something silly there. So if I pick all the rejected contracts, maybe you want to pull one out of the trash. That's certainly what you can do here. A rejected contract will count nowhere. So let's just talk about, I guess, contract statuses at first. Let me click into one of the contracts here, and you're going to go into the contract editor. I can click Update Contract Status. And let's just talk about this list right here. So when a contract is submitted by a salesperson, the first status that it gets is submitted. And so that is submitted by the salesperson and is awaiting your attention or approval. That will show up in the dashboard. The next where that goes is all dependent on what your process is at your chamber. If you want to mark them as sold immediately, if everything's okay, great. And then you would put the contract into your invoicing system, be it Chambermaster or WebLink or QuickBooks or whatever you use, and then you track them from there for the payments, or you can change it to pending customer action or info, and certainly update it to that or pending payment. You don't have to use all these statuses, but you can do whatever you want. If there's something you need to communicate back to the salesperson with, need to get approval in writing or whatever you guys need to do. If there's something, maybe the trades, you always require something in writing, or something over $10,000, you want to make sure the check is in your hand. Certainly that is your prerogative to do that. And so you just kind of step through each one of those things. There's nothing really different in the system when it comes to contract statuses that are pending each other, or different from each other, I guess I should say. For us, a submitted, pending, these are all the same. They're in the system and they're counted on the dashboard here. If I go back to that, it says there are additional 54,056 pending contracts. That's where they're in process somewhere, and so all of those contracts are kind of pending. So in that process here, the only thing we do not count in that total is rejected and sold. Of course, rejected, just think of that as, again, in the trash. And again, it's been rejected by you or rejected by the salesperson. Maybe somebody put it in by accident. But know that you can edit every part of a contract. So there's not really a reason to reject a contract unless you want to mark them in that way. In other words, if something's wrong, just fix the contract and change it. But if you want to indicate that, hey, I've talked to this person and they rejected the idea of the contract, that will show up in other places as a rejected contract. And then, of course, when it is marked as sold, that kind of changes the rules completely. So that is when approved sold is the one where it counts towards the big campaign goal and the total. That is something that you're saying, hey, this is approved. Yes, this is a done deal. Count it on the leaderboard. Count it on all of the total boards as well. So you get to pick the date that you want that to be on. Certainly, if your campaign weeks, let's say they fall from Friday to the next Thursday, you want to make sure they're going in there. We've had some users of the system that they're recording something on Friday late at night or early in the morning, whatever. They're like, oops, we need to put that back on the previous week for a goal. Or somebody's trying to hit a goal, or you're trying to give a reward out for that week. That's why you would need to modify the date sold. Certainly, that's a variable there. You can pick any day you want. If you pick a day that is not in a campaign week, which we'll talk about down here, you've got different campaign weeks in the system. If it's not in one of those weeks, it will not count toward the total. So today is October 30th. If the campaign ended yesterday on the 29th, you'll have to extend the campaign to include today, or you'll have to backdate this contract so that it would show up as sold on the previous day. So again, if it's outside the date, you certainly can save it. You can save a contract with a date sold outside of the range of a campaign week, it won't count toward the total. Some people prefer that actually because they will want the actual maybe they're counting all the memberships and they want them to be in here, but they don't want that to count toward their campaign total. Maybe you want the campaign total to show $200,000 in contracted sales, but you don't want to include membership renewals and stuff like that. So in those cases, you would mark those on contracts with a date sold outside of the typical campaign weeks that you've got going on there. While we're here to updating contract status, certainly a key component of contracts here. You've got a lot of different people that could be notified of this contract status update. Certainly, you can uncheck them all and don't notify anybody. You could do that as an administrator. A salesperson cannot uncheck those boxes. They can add others, but they can't remove things because we certainly don't want them changing a contract status and then not letting people get notified of that information. A salesperson cannot mark a contract as sold, but they can mark everything else. They can hop it around anywhere they want to. Once it is sold, though, they can't pull that back. So it's kind of a locked thing for them. But for you, you can edit any time at any level you want. As you see here, I was talking about here the notification recipients, the buyer, of course, who's buying that from the company as the buying person, the campaign administrator, maybe you, probably you, primary salesperson. This is the person who submitted the contract in the first place. The campaign chairperson, if there is one, will be listed here. If you have a co-chairperson, that person will be listed here as well. We've added a new feature in 2018 where we added these features, but we also added an accountant area. This person is picked up inside the campaign settings area, and you would actually specify them in there. Let me hop into that real quick just to show you that information. So I clicked on settings, edit this campaign, and if I scroll down here a bit, you'll see here the contact person at the chamber, accountant at here, the campaign chair, and the campaign co-chair. That's where those things get set right there. And these are the campaign weeks we talked about. You can see them, they're view only here because they're campaign related, but if you want to edit them, you need to edit them in another screen, but that's a different video. So, but anyway, I just wanted to show kind of how you get, how do those names pop up on here? How do I kind of change them? That's certainly how you can do that. Everybody has the ability to also send these to other recipients. So if you wanted to send it at steve@steve.com, which is not my email, send it to other recipients. They will also just send out as well. Obviously, not always, you don't always have the right emails in the system, or somebody else can do something in there. If you want to view and modify the notification before sending, let's say yes, that actually pops this editor up, and then you can actually edit the entire email that's going to go out. Here we have some formats, some template fields that you can actually do a lot of different things that are going to be obviously substituted in. But if you want to just send one out to yourself and see what it looks like, uncheck all these boxes, maybe add your personal email, or make sure it just goes to you, and then you can come down here, edit this around as you need to, and you click update status and send emails, and then you'll see exactly what gets sent to everybody. So they have a little visual editor here, and you also have the source code editor. We recommend you probably stay out of that source area and go back to the visual. We've had some people that have copied and pasted some messages in from Microsoft Word. That's usually not a good idea because it's not going to format it well. We would suggest if you're going to copy something and paste it in here, you can right click and you do paste as plain text so that you're actually getting the cleanest version of this. Microsoft Word is a very notorious for having a lot of embedded markup code and a bunch of garbage that really jacks up the formatting of your emails. So if you're going to change this around, make sure you're doing it cleanly, and again, pasting in cleanly or formatting things using the rules here would work well. And again, usually with email, it's keep it simple because email there's 29 different email clients on the planet, and Gmail doesn't behave the same way as AOL and the likes. So so that's a way for you to edit that. If you don't want to edit that at all, you could just say no, and you click your update status and send emails, and in that case, it would just send out that one and send you back to this screen. So still, let's keep talking about contracts and how you would edit those or create one. Let's just go into edit one, I guess. First would be a good one here. I've added this interesting one for this super duper sponsor here for to the Logboat Brewing Company. I clicked that. Let's talk about that. So this is the editor for this contract. So you're seeing the public information, sales sales credit information, contract status history, who it's been sold to, all that details. You could share this contract using this link, which is a public link that does not require a login. So if I actually click that, this link can be sent anywhere, and people can view this contract without logging in, much like a Google Doc or something like that, where you don't have to have a login to see that. That's certainly the way to do that. Again, we talked about contract status already. Let's click View Full Contract Details. That is without that link, without that hash on it. Just another way of viewing it. Kind of redundant here. I'm just showing a little extra information with that hash code at the end. But this link obviously is not public. So obviously you can click on anything in here to hop around to things, but let's go into the edit screen. This is kind of where the meat of everything is. So as you can see on this contract, I could change every bit of it. There's not a single part that we're not going to let you edit. If you're saying this contract is $500,000 of craziness, they talked you down to 400,000. Okay, you're going to make that change to 400,000 here. And again, we try to show a lot of hints on what that means, what the contract total. This is the amount shown on the contract. The buyer will see that amount and will expect to pay or trade this amount, and then this amount counts toward the campaign total and the product type specific campaign goals in the leaderboard. And again, who's bought it, what company is it going to, the authorized buyer, of course, who is the primary salesperson. This is the person that has the right of renewal for the next year. So again, if you're entering on them on behalf of somebody else, there's a better way to do that. We can talk about that in a minute. I don't think I would recommend maybe creating contracts this way. Maybe it's a little slower for you. Other people like doing it here. But let's say, I'm here as system administrator. It should be Lili Vianello. I'm entering the contract on behalf of that person. Great. Or whatever. I'm just going to leave that as it is for now. And then I can actually change the credit and split sales. So this gets off into a little tangential thing here, but we have the ability to split contract sales credit to multiple people. And the person who originally enters the contract into the system, in this case, was the system administrator and got 500,000 in sales credit. So let's say I'm hopping this over to Lili Vianello, like I said, or maybe I want to split it with her. And I've also changed that contract total from 500,000 to 400,000. It's showing you, hey, you're giving away too much sales credit. You can do that. You certainly can over incentivize people. This is incentives go toward the trip or your prizes or whatever. And then the sales credit is for team credits. And again, you'll see that in other places as well. But let's say we just want to split it down the middle. We're going to do 200,000. I know these numbers are kind of silly. And then we're going to split that with Lili, and she's going to get 200,000 in sales credit and also incentive credit. If you, some campaigns like to over incentivize something. Maybe last minute came up, you've got a big event, and oops, I got a couple extra booths that are $1,000 a piece, and you're like, hey, if somebody sells these during campaign, we're going to give you $2,000 in incentive credit just to get those out. Maybe you had an unexpected cancellation in some booths, and you don't want to have a canceled or an empty booth at the show, and you were really over incentivize people for that. That's the way you can give them extra credit right here. So we don't limit you to two. You certainly can split over and over and over. You can split the contract 15 ways. Alternatively, you don't have to tell people that you can split contracts at all. Sometimes that becomes a problem, especially near the end of a campaign. If somebody's close and they're like, "Oh, I want to take my girlfriend or my, and she's only got $1,000 worth of sales," and so everybody piles on and says, "Oh, give a bunch of credit to Lisa so she can go on the trip with us." If you guys want to allow that, great. If you don't, then don't tell them it's even a possibility. But certainly, it's something that's used very often, especially when it comes to putting out the incentive credit earned for additional people that maybe didn't make goal or very close to it. Again, as I mentioned in the past, the payment methods, this is not an e-commerce system. This is just kind of indicating which payment method you want to use. Typically, you're going to run a report out of all of the system here on the left-hand side, reports of contracts that are sold. You're going to give those to the accountant or give those to the person that are going to key in these into your membership management system or your accounting program. We do not tie directly into those systems on purpose because everybody we've talked to loves that gap, that air gap. Nobody wants to click a button and says, "Oh yeah, just push them over into that." People want to review them, make sure they've gotten paid, they've got the check, they've got the way they're setting it up, credit card wise or whatever. There's certainly a lot going on in that system, and we certainly don't want to mess around with that. We just want to indicate here, hey, this is the invoice. Yeah, we put in invoice 11234 whatever on there, and again, date sold. If you need to change that reporting purposes. Previous contract, this is an interesting one. So if you are renewing a contract from last year and you're creating a new one, then the previous contract will be in here. This field is in here so that you can manually update that information. If you're looking for something here, I'm gonna just start searching by a number or a name, and you should be able to find. I think you could just do it by name too. Yeah, there you go. So you can look by people's names. You can you can look by number. You're just looking for the previous contract information and put it in there. The idea here is that it's going to tie it to the previous. It's going to show up as a renewal. You're like, hey, what was the one from last year? In the reports, it will actually show you, oh, here's the previous contract from the previous year. Okay, great. And when we roll campaigns forward, meaning we actually take this year's campaign and roll all the sold contracts forward into a new campaign, this is the previous contract is already populated for you when you create new ones, because obviously you want to tie back to the previous campaign and show it as a renewal. You can check that box here. So again, if there is a previous contract, you can check it as a renewal contract, and of course put any contract details that you have or you want in here. Some people use this for notes. Other people use this for generic information about billing or invoicing or what have you. So again, as you can see, everything on this area can be edited. So even if you got this wrong, it's like, oh no, it's not an event, it's actually a publication, and you want to hop it over and it's actually email sponsor for that. Everything just changed there. So obviously you see the sales credit and the incentives change around. The contract total is now wrong, or the sales credit is now wrong, whatever. You can change every bit of this contract, so it's kind of nice to do that. So I am not going to hit save. I'm just going to hit the back button and go back into this screen, and so you actually see the information I had in there before. But that's basically what you can do on the admin side to edit or create a contract. If I'm on the list of contracts, again, I click on contracts there. I can click new contract, and I get the same screen I just had. A lot simpler because I haven't populated anything in here yet. So as I click each one, you're going to find that this is a lot slower to do, frankly, because you're going to go into programs and events, and then you're going to actually see some information, and then you got to go dig this one out and go to presenting sponsor, and then you got to pick the company and do what you need to do. So here's a Baker Floral, and you put the person in and put the salesperson in. Maybe that wasn't so slow, but you get the point. You can actually do everything you need to do in this screen when you create a new contract. But let's take a look at how you can create a contract on the front side, just like a salesperson can. Let me go into sell on the front side, just like anybody else. So let me pick golf or whatever else, right? And I can actually search that. And here I've got the events. I can click on any one of these items, or if I want to search by silver sponsor, whatever you need to do. You get everything that's silver sponsors, whatever location sponsors. I don't know what I just did, but let's just go with the gold sponsor there. And then here's your information about this. You can quickly see who else bought this, so that's a benefit of doing it this way. You can see the other contracts that are already in here. I just clicked on MFA Incorporated to see what else they had in here. They got a lot of contacts, a lot of contracts from the current year, stuff that they purchased from previous years, all of the history. Again, this is a whole different discussion video, but this shows kind of what they bought and what and when. But if I go back, let me go back into here. I'm going to click sell. So again, just like a salesperson in the sales training video, I can create them. Now you as an administrator, you can change it right here. So remember how before I said it was sold by sysadmin and then I reassigned it to Lily. This will avoid that because I'm actually going to create it on behalf of Lily, and then she'll have the rights of first renewal next year if necessary. So if I'm going to create that for Lily, and I'm going to do the First Source Solar, sell that to this Todd Miller guy, great. And then this is not a renewal contract, this is a whole new contract. That's all you have to do. I just pick the product, who sold it, who'd you sell it to, submit the contract, and then that's in your inbox now. And you as an administrator now can keep going, and you can update that contract status right here, or you can go, oops, I screwed up and need to edit that, or print it out, PDF it, whatever you need to do. There's new features now where you can actually bulk print contracts from the admin area. So let's talk about that, but in a minute. But that's it for creation from the front side. This is how you can actually create contracts from the front side. So let me go to the back here on the admin area, and again go back into contracts. And let's talk about bulk actions on the contracts as well. So here I can filter, I can sort, I can search. So if I'm looking for specific contract statuses, let's say here's the rejected contracts we talked about a minute ago. Here's those 5 contracts. Apparently I've got a little bug. Oops. So I'll have to see what I did there. That's weird. I reload and it's working again. Sorry about that. So I go to rejected, and then I've got those contracts here. Let's say I want to check them all and I want to bring all these back or do something with just these rejected contracts. Or maybe let's do a more appropriate, I guess. All of the ones that are submitted, maybe you reviews. Wow, it's doing that again. I'm going to have to see what's going on here. Sorry about that again. I don't know what the heck's happening. I'll have to look. But these are all the ones that are submitted. So these are the ones that needed your action. Let's say your blanket, you've already reviewed all these things. You don't want to go in and update all their statuses. These are all now approved, sold, or maybe just these 5, whatever. Let's grab 5 or 6. And I'm going to do down here is my bulk action. I can set the contract status. So I can actually, again, submitted is where we are. We can change them all to pending payment. These are great. Do you want an email notification to be sent for each of those? Let's say no. I don't want all those emails to be blasted out. Are you sure you want to change the status? This is just kind of a checksum, like, hey. And then if you want to add a note, that note will be added to the status history for each one of those. So test example 1030. So I'll show you what's going on there. So, and then again, you can view and modify the note before you send it, just like we did before. Little smaller editor area, so it's a little more annoying there. We're gonna make that a little bigger, but most people aren't even using this, so let's just go back to new. And I'm going to click apply, and it's going to change the status of those 6 contracts, what I just did. So if you want to see that again, I can hit the back arrow, and I know those same contracts are still there. So some people wanted to do multiple actions on those, so I hit the back arrow and I went right back where I was. So again, these contracts are not marked as submitted anymore because I just did that. But again, if you want to retain the ones that are checked and you want to do something else, that would be the best way to do that. So now let's say I want to bulk print these, and the other option here is resend. Let's do that one first. Resend most recent status notifications, apply. That will actually send an email out again. People are like, oh, I didn't get it for whatever reason. This one is used more rarely, but again, you get the detail of what's going on. This will just email it out. Not used as much, but again, that if they are marked as sold, maybe you're going to bulk mark a bunch as sold, and then you can mark them all in here, and then you could say resend the status notification because you didn't want to do it here. So in other words, you said no here, that's not going to send the email, you want to do it later, but that would be the other option there. So let's look at the third one here, bulk print selected contracts. And here for the 6, we've got the bulk contracts. And then do you want the contract status history to be included on each contract? Do you want the sales credit history to be included on each contract? Great question. So let's talk about. Let me just dive into one of these real fast and show you the more detailed, nuanced parts of the contract details here. So in the actual contracts, the idea here was that the contract looks like a QuickBooks invoice, and so you've got the logo here in the top left corner, you've got the campaign, you've got the contract, you've got the product number, who sold it, what the status is, and again what that last was updated. Again, your information about your campaign and who the contact is, who bought it, who that buyer was from that company, and then what they bought. So if there is details in here, obviously I picked one that didn't have a product description. Product benefits, project obligations are listed here, the contract details. Here somebody says here they're interested in adding either September or October as a welcome sponsor, but not both. September will be per preference, blah, 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 blah. So there you go. I'm submitting both in case September is not available. So perfect example. Here's a signature block. some people have asked for electronic signatures. We're going to certainly add that in the future, but most campaigns are doing it where they send out these emails and they change the notification in the email that is sent out, and they say, hey, if you'd like to accept this contract, you can either sign and sign it and send back a completed PDF when they reply to the email. If that's not required, they certainly can reply back and just say, I accept. However you want to do it. There's so many different ways here. We have I think we have a couple of chambers, or one chamber that's using one of the Adobe Sign tool for that. They're shipping the PDFs into those and shipping those out. Certainly that we're open to discussion on what you guys need to do on that. But the point here is we've got payment information and we've got contract status history. Payment information down here if they've made payments. Certainly if there's people splitting up payments, half cash, half check, half invoice, whatever, that's where that information would go. And then there's this page break, and then you have sales credit and contract status history. Now the point here of why this page footer with this silly giant logo in there, it does not print that big, sales credit and contract status history, these are two things that you probably don't want to share with the person that is buying the product. So sales credit, who's got the credit, they're splitting it, and how much they made, and whatever, may not be important for you to share. The contract status history certainly is going to have an entire communication history in there for that. So if I go back into here and I actually update the contract status and I say, I'm going to change that to pending payment, and then put a note test 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And I'm going to update that contract status, and then now you see there's two items in the contract status history. Let's go back into that view contract details, and this is the same screen I was looking at a minute ago. I scroll down here, and now I see those extra contract status history notes that are all in there. My point here is that if you don't want to include those, you can exclude those. I'm going to hit Control P in my computer. I think you're Apple P or whatever it is for you Mac people. Here you're going to see 3 pages. So this is how it prints. This is how it looks. You get typically 2 pages on how it works, and then you see that page break, and then you see the sales credit and the contract status history. If you don't want to include contract status history and sales credit in there, you can just trim that page off. So you say, I'm going to print page 1 to 2, and you're just going to get that. You could save them as PDF, you could save them as paper, whatever you want to do from here, of course, and go from there. But let's talk about easier ways to bulk print that and other options with that. So let me go back into this, the contract list, right? I had a list of contracts here. Let me just grab 5 or 6, 7, 8, whatever, and I'm going to go down here to bulk print. And again, now this, I kind of went the long way around the barn to explain what's going on here with the contract status history to be included on each contract. No. And I don't want the sales credit to be included on each contract. Okay, fine. You can include one or both or whatever. And then I'm going to click Apply. And that's going to take me directly to a screen that has all of these contracts rammed together. So here's that first one. So you have the first contract. Then you have a second there's a footer, the giant footer thing, and then the second contract, and the third contract, and the fourth contract. And again, if I hit Control P here to print, much more condensed because I just have the contract and that signature block, and that's it. And then I go to the next one. And same deal. So I've got the distance, the details about the trade, about what's going on in that contract. You've got information there. And then again, next contract, next contract, next contract. You print these off. Contract details go here, go here, go here. Kind of example. Obviously, I'm in a test system here. You got a lot of details. If you want the signature block modified here, we can change that wording for you. That's not something that can directly be changed, I think, or maybe it can be. I'm forgetting right now. But if you want that changed, let me know, and we could certainly talk about where to do it. I think you can do it in the system, but anyway, I'm kind of forgetting. It's kind of late in the day here. But that's how you bulk print these contracts, and that's how you can get them all out the door. While I was looking at that, that got me thinking about another feature of this, which is I don't want to print that annoying logo at the top corner. Maybe I don't want to see this on every contract. That's okay. We can remove that. That option is actually in the campaign settings, and so you go to over here, campaign settings, And you're going to edit this campaign because it's for the current campaign. Again, the whole concept of this screen is you can hop between campaigns. But for this campaign, you didn't want to include the logo on this. Here is that campaign icon or logo. You can remove that from the entire system, but I don't think you want to do that. I think you just want to show the campaign logo on contracts. You want to change that to no. And this says yes if you want to include the campaign logo in the contract, but sometimes it doesn't look good, scaled down, and people don't want to see it. It looks weird, whatever. Okay, you just click no there, and you're good to go. And then you scroll to the bottom and hit save, and you're good to go. And then if I go back into my contracts, and then I look at a contract and view contract details, it's gone. So no more logo on the contract. A lot cleaner, maybe if you like them that way. Great, ship them, and go from there. Let's see. What else did I miss on talking through contracts? That is a lot of information. That's a 30-minute video. I think I'll leave it there and I'll just split it up into other videos to talk about other sections, but I hope that's helpful on how to create, how to edit, how to communicate, how to update contract statuses, how to print, how to share them without logging in, how to split sales credit, how to update that status history, and how to change every part of that from the admin area or again creating them from the salesperson side. Hope that was helpful. Thanks.